Good morning, this is Dr. Turner for Fundamental Math. Today we're going to be covering 10.2, which is looking at one-step equations. One-step equations are essentially the fundamental step in pre-algebra and algebra. Super important. You've technically seen this as far back as elementary, but rather than using a variable, you may have used an empty box or a blank space to try to see what goes in the box. But let's go ahead and get started. So with 10.2, start out with something simple. You're going to have something like x plus 4 equals 6. Now, because we're using a variable as our placeholder here, this is technically an algebra problem. But if you go back to even, let's say, first or second grade, you would have something similar where you have a blank box plus 4 equals 6. And the question is, well, what goes in the box? What plus 4 is 6? And a lot of you can do the mental math and tell me, oh, well, that's 2. A 2 goes in the box, so x equals 2. The point of focusing on simple one-step equations like this is to develop those fundamental skills so that when you get an equation that may involve 3, 4, 5 steps, that you have the capability to do that algebraically rather than trying to just figure out what goes in the box or what goes in place of the x. All of these types of operations rely on what are known as opposite operations. The most common for fundamentals here, we're going to be focusing on addition and subtraction, and then multiplication and division. There are other opposite operations. For instance, when you have x squared and square root, those are opposite operations. And there are many more, but we're focusing primarily on the first two here. So going back to a question like number 1, to solve this algebraically, and let's say change it a little bit, x plus 8 equals 12. To solve this algebraically, you are trying to isolate the variable. Now, because this is just a one-step equation problem, you really only have one step. The one step is isolate the variable. That means get the variable by itself on one side. We're used to the variable being on the left, but it doesn't have to be. It can be on the left or the right. You're going to get the same answer. So for number 2, I have x plus 8 equals 12. So I have x plus 8 on the left side, and I want the x by itself. So to get the x by itself, or any variable, we need to get rid of the plus 8. And we're going to do that by performing the opposite operation. The opposite of addition is subtraction. So I would subtract 8 here so that I'm left with just x on that one side. However, we can't just subtract 8 like that. If we subtract 8 on one side of the equation to keep it balanced, we need to subtract 8 on the other side of the equation. So 12 minus 8 gives me my answer, which is x equals 4. Now, if you want to go back to doing the box method, quote unquote, and you want to just make sure that that's correct, you could always plug it in. What plus 8 is 12? 4 plus 8, that equals 12, which means yes, I got the correct answer. So that's pretty much all you have to do for this section. You're just doing the opposite operation with the one-step equations. So if I have x minus 5 equals 7, okay. Opposite operation of minus is plus, so you would add 5 on both sides to get x by itself. X plus x and then 7 plus 5 gives me 12. You can plug it in to verify your answer. If you have multiplication, and this is maybe a little bit trickier, let's say 3x equals 27, okay? Now, usually for algebra, we're not going to distinctly write a multiplication sign, whether it's the dot or an x, we're not going to write that multiplication sign. But if you see a coefficient in front of a variable, the implied operation is multiplication. So 3x is the same as 3 times x. So to get x by itself, I would need to do the opposite operation, which is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. That gives me 27 divided by 3, which is 9. Again, you can check 3 times 9 is 27. So that's my correct answer. And then lastly, if you have division, x over 5 equals 4. Okay. Remember that fractions are another way of writing division. So the opposite operation would be multiplication here. So multiply by 5 on both sides. These cancel out, and 4 times 5 gives you 20. Okay. So one-step equation, you have one step, do the opposite operation to get x by itself. That's it for 10.2. If you have any questions, please reach out during office hours. Otherwise, have a good day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.